Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm doing my Farsight overview. So I wanted to start with him, and I was going to talk about him first, talk about what detachments what I think he's best in, and then basically a breakdown of every unit he can go with, because it's only the 3 crisis suits. But I personally actually learned a little bit about how Farsight can be good with some stuff, and especially against certain lists. And I learned from this video. I'm not saying you will, but it was good for me to do this video. It was a good learning experience so as we've already kind of gone over Farsight before, obviously he's got his default, you can't change his weapons and stuff like that, but his abilities, so let's just open up everything really fast just so I can go over everything. So I've already kind of gone over his ranged weapons before in previous videos, but the high intensity plasma rifle, 24 inches, 2 hits, it's a good gun in the sense of a strength 8. And when we talk about his special abilities, like, when he's using the way of the short blade, if he's within the 9 inches and he's leading a unit, that'll basically be treated like it's a strength 10 in the sense of it's going down 1 dice pip. And that would be really nice, because then that makes it, again, like, let's say if it's strength 8, for instance, instead of being 4s, it's 3s, and then even at strength 8, if you go all the way up to basically toughness 10, you'll be able to still be at 4s, because it would bump you up to 5, but you go back down. And then same thing with a sword, being strength 10, but being able to go down a pip is nice. And so him himself is pretty good as far as Tau goes. Yes, he's no Avatar of Cain. He's not a Void Dragon. He's not, there are even quite a few Space Marine leaders that are more, not only tanky, but better at damage and stuff. But his highlights, I would say, is his movement. And having the wounds of 8 isn't bad, just because it gives you, he doesn't have shield drones, as you can see. He can't take shield drones, so it gives him a little bit more oomph, where he can just stay alive maybe a little bit more. Toughness 5, again, at least they'll have to have strength 10 to do 2s on you. It's still not the best, and you do have your invuln and your natural 2-up save, but Farsight is not, for anyone that plays Tau or plays against Tau, or is at all familiar with Tau at this point, they should understand that Tau aren't super tanky. So with his 2 abilities in mind, the way of the short blade, giving him the 1 to the wound roll and his troops that he's leading within 9 inches, and then being able to use stratagems, those are the 2 things that I'm really going to be focusing on in this video, and how you can kind of surprise other players, or just run Farsight a little bit differently, or find your own style to run Farsight. Because, again, I've kind of learned some different things from this that I would like to talk about, because most of the time I see people just using the Sunforge battlesuits with them, which is very smart. You have fusion, and then when you get close with him, well, the fusion's better. It's very good. But depending on everything, depending on which detachment you're running, and everything like that, there is justification in my mind to run different crisis suits for it. For instance, if you are running Monkar, yeah, for the most part, fusions, you need some anti-tank, you need some fast anti-tank, and getting that assault and getting up there, very nice, very nice. Unless you are going to be somehow specifically, finding NIDs, or specifically finding something, because even deep striking, you come in on turn 2, so you're already losing 1 of your turns of fusion. And so that's going to be one of the things that you do want to look out for with using Monkar with Commander Farsight, is maybe even playing him out of deep strike, or just being mindful of sacrificing that first turn. But with retaliation, so again, let me just go over retaliation a little bit, just because I haven't too much, but their detachment rule is bonded heroes. So each time a Tau battlesuit model from your army, so it's specifically to battlesuit, so keep that in mind. It does not affect, my infantry, does not affect my hammerheads, does not affect anything but with the keyword battlesuit. But from your army, that makes a range attack that's within 12 inches, improve the strength characteristic by 1. If that attack targets a unit within 6, improve the armor penetration characteristics of that attack by 1 as well. So if you are, within the 6 inches, so you get everyone's, boost with these Sun Forges, yeah, they are pretty nice. Look at these guys. You get your fusion, and the fusion goes up to strength 10, and then it also does a +1 to wound on top of that, and then you have, the negative AP4 going to negative AP5. You get the Melted Tuba bonus, so it's a D6 +2 because you're within the 6 inches for that also. And then with your abilities, you can reroll the damage and the wound roll. I totally understand why people are running that. Very, very, very strong. Very, very, very strong. And with there being 3 sets of crisis suits, I don't really like the idea of him running with what I call the budget broadsides, these fire knife battle suits. These crises, because you don't really want to be that close with these. Their abilities, even, they don't have a fallback and shoot. They have their weapon support system, so they can ignore things like stealth, anything that is negative affecting my hit roll, I can ignore that. But Farsight, you're not really going to use all of his rules, and even because Farsight wants to get stuck up in there, and these guys, I really do call them my budget broadsides. The plasma rifles are little rare rifles, the missile pods are little high yield missile pods, kind of thing, in the sense of, I know a plasma rifle is not as strong as a broadside's 12 strength rail rifle, but just in the sense of it's more mobile. I will go over these units a little bit more when I run them with an enforcer commander, because in retaliation specifically, I have some use for them. But so those ones I would probably eliminate, just because they don't synergize well with Farsight and wanting to get up close. And so taking those out kind of off, just because there's not much more to go over, in the sense of, well, Farsight can help them shoot. And yeah, if things get close, they will do well, like even better with Farsight. I'm not trying to say that plasma rifle going to strength 9, but then, still hitting some things on 4s or 3s or maybe 2s, just because. Infantry, but you still have to be close. And so the 2 that it narrows down to for me to run him with is the Crisis Sunforged, which we already talked about, but the one that I really wanted to focus on today was a Star Scythe, because mostly probably because of NIDS, and just I run into a lot of guardsmen at the shop too, and there's not a lot of horde armies, but if you do need some anti-infantry power, these guys, I feel like before I pass them off, I wrote them off, but having Farsight lead them would be pretty nice. So let's just go over their weapons first. So you can either have a Tau Flamer or a Burst Cannon, and when I was looking at this earlier, I was kind of thinking of going full-on flamers, kind of thinking old edition when it was just like drop in there, have your old like flame. You used to have like flame icons, like in the sense of a little teardrop measuring thing for flame cones. But, if you're like dropping in here, I'll drop all of the stuff together later in the sense of bringing it all together. But the first thing is, your Tau Flamer. Auto hits, in the sense of you just roll for the attacks, and it going up to strength 5, AP1, and it's still only 1 damage, but then wounding with a +1, and then their special rule of each time this model makes a range attack, so it's not against monsters or vehicles, but their starting strength. Oh, I'm reading that wrong. I totally mixed it up with a different rule. I was like, wait a minute, what was that other thing? Some other different, that's the other crisis suits. But each time this model makes a range attack at anything that's a monster or vehicle, so basically infantry, improve that AP characteristic of 1. That doesn't matter the range. And so that is very nice to then have your Tau Flamers go to AP2, If they're against infantry, again, the strength 5, but also wounding on a +1. So if something's like toughness 3, like a standard little infantry, like a gaunt, you would be acting like you're hitting them on 2s with then a -2 AP. And one of the nice things, going back to the abilities with this, is they don't mind being close. They do lose the 4-up invul, like the fire knife crisis suits, but you get the battle suit support system. So they don't mind at all having to fall back and keep on firing. So getting up in the stuck in there, and especially since flamers can be shot within engagement range, I'm 99% sure. No, I can't remember. Don't quote me on that. But just being able to, even if they do charge it, they hit them with Farsight and then jump back and then hit them again would be really nice. I feel like that is almost, I need to run that sometime just because that sounds so epic, having Farsight being guarded with just like flamers and they are getting stuck in there. Just the thought of that is exciting to me. The burst cannons also, though, you get 4 attacks, 18 inches, but like again, if they're close, so you get all the bonuses, going up to strength 6, getting a +1 to wound, going up again to 2 AP. So again, for swarm close quarters army, awesome. They are going to do, I feel like, really, really, really good. Really, really, really good. Also, if you're running Retaliation Cadre, there's a few things in Retaliation Cadre that I really like. For instance, the shortened blade. And remember, Farsight's ability to play this any command strategy on himself for free. So drop in this with, like, let's say you have an Enforcer commander or even a Cold Star commander with either the fusions, if you're going to go a path where the Cold Star is going to go after the vehicles, Farsight's going to guard them against all the infantry, or something like that, or just double suits. You play this on the Cold Star, drop him 3 inches away, play this on Farsight, drop him 3 inches away. Or if you have like stuff like budget broadsides or stuff that's a little bit farther back, use this for free on Farsight, get in there, drop him, kind of thing, and you didn't have to spend the CP, because especially with all those flamers and stuff like that, I drop in 3 inches, get all my boosts, make sure I get all of those boosts stacking, hit you super hard. But for 1 CP, look at this. The Torch Star Gambit. Beautiful. That is literally me doing the pasta finger kiss. I'm not Italian, I'm Greek. But your shooting phase, 1 Tau Empire battlesuit unit from your army that has fly, whose attacks have been resolved this phase. So someone who's already shot. If your unit is not within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units, you can make a normal move. If it does, you cannot declare a charge. So imagine having Farsight drop in on you 3 inches away as like a term, or like a Tyranid, or Orc, or Imperial Guard, like something that has some big old infantry, stuff where I can hit a soft side, dropping in there, hitting you, and then either like, because he can move 10 inches. I know it's just a normal move, I can't assault, but 10 inches. Good luck with that. Like, try to catch me, kind of thing, to where in retaliation, I love Commander Farsight. The lore even references him and stuff in his like group, with his like Riptide and everything like that. I know he's not in Riptide, but he had a friend that was in Riptide. The people that have been playing for a while will know what I'm talking about. But it allows, Mondkar's awesome, but Mondkar doesn't have tricky movement. It just has a lot of movement. But this, even just having those two combos, those two things in the combo, the shortened blade dropping in and doing this on Farsight is amazing, because it basically, especially it's in retaliation, where you can guarantee that at least Farsight in his group can drop in and do their damage. Be getting all of their boosts, be doing all their things. And Farsight's not a bad person to have on the front lines versus like a Cold Star. He's at least got his sword, so he can do some stuff. So I would strongly encourage, because it works for both the Sunforge and the Star Scythe. Strongly encourage looking at that. But yeah, if you are having some problems with swarm armies, if you are having some problems with a lot of infantry, try out some Star Scythes with Farsight, because honestly, with him in retaliation, those are two very, 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 very strong units to run him in retaliation. If you're running him in, let me just edit here this really fast, and I will just Kauyon. Yep. If you're running in Kauyon, I'm saying that wrong. You don't have as many things to jump on people. You have like point blank ambush where you can improve some of the AP and stuff like that, but you don't have a lot of the same movement options, the same focus on your crisis suits. Obviously, it's a more blend of the army, and I had just recently gone over Monkar, but with Monkar, your movement goes to having assault, and so you're just moving from advanced rolls. But in the shooting phase, you don't have a hey, let's get out of there, kind of thing. You have your counterfire defense systems, which is awesome, and stuff like that. But it is more focused on getting in there rather than really getting out, because you kind of don't want to get out once you're in the Monkar. You want to finish them off. It ends now, kind of thing. So even though this is his detachment, so to speak, I almost feel like I personally like him better in retaliation. Only because, well, if he's going to deep strike in, he doesn't miss turn one. So he's able to use the retaliation buffs whenever he comes in, basically. And then Kauyon, he's more of a support. He's definitely not the focal. Like my guns, he does benefit from those lethal hits. Fusion. I'm telling you guys, fusion with lethal. I mean, not lethal. Well, lethal hits is really good for Monkar, but I was meaning sustained hits 1 and sustained hits 2 when it's spotted 4, because it was kind of everything that I wanted to go through, because all of the kind of factions have a little bit different build that I would go for them. As I've said, I've been going over retaliation so much because you're really trying to go for that almost battlesuit focus where, okay, so let's build up the list a little bit. Let's say I have Commander Farsight and I have a Cold Star. One of the things I really love about running with that is internal grenade racks. So every time you move over someone, you drop grenades on them. If you do, roll 6d6 and for each 4 up, that enemy suffers 1 more wound. That is amazing. So you have the Cold Star, because I kind of talked about this earlier. Let's have the Cold Star focus on anti-vehicle, Farsight being taking care of all the infantry and stuff like that. The Cold Star still, even outside of Monkar, gives everyone assault. So they move on, moving 18 inches, and move on to the next target, and hopefully drop over some grenades or something like that. While Farsight is still doing what he does best, just being close and killing things. And the Cold Star can run away if he really needs to. I know the fusion isn't really going to help him move far, but now let's add on this. So this is my trifecta combo, so to speak, with retaliation card that I just love. Sorry about that. With the Enforcer, you want to build them like a budget broadside, first of all. So throw off that, put some missile pods, put a plasma rifle on there kind of thing. And then, I know I didn't put that, but the important part is, okay, this one doesn't really matter. Unless, because you still have to pay the price. It used to change where you didn't have to pay the price, and it was awesome. But basically just lets you use half of Farsight's ability where, well, you still have to pay the price, but you can use it again. So that is nice. But, and then obviously, Star Ignition System is amazing. Being able to take a unit of crisis suits, because that's what I would put them on. I'd have like an enforcer or something like that on them, and they could just literally do the stealth suit team thing where they just warp back to reserve and they come back whenever I want to. And I'm already using Grenade X, so I can't. But the prototype weapon system. So it is on the bearer only, and that's the only thing that I'm kind of like, But the Tau battlesuit model only, so it's not like he's giving it like Farsight to everyone, or he doesn't even have to be leading. You can literally just have some like random dude out there being like, and just wrecking your face. Like if you wanted to go old style crisis suit commander from like 9th edition, throw in some ion blasters, since the commanders are the only ones that can have them now. They're on prototype weapons system and either get lethal hits or sustained hits. You can just choose that each time you shoot, and it can change every turn. So that is pretty good in the sense of like if you do want like because the Ion Blaster's range also got, or maybe it was 18 inches, but it was the plasma rifle that got its range nerfed. But if you are just going to go full, like let's just say you're going to go full on that, right? You have 18 inches. I still would kind of rather have, in a lot of ways, the Ion Blaster just because of the more shots. But you could be hammering people and helping support with the, budget broadside. Budget broadsides. I need to add these back to the list here. And just be hitting them, and you're getting the leaflets again, not your squad. Or you can have them again. The reason why I kind of came up with budget broadsides is because I tried to have mobile fire support, and so having the enhancement, the Star Flare ignition system, having that on it lets these guys now deploy wherever I need heavier fire support. So if either so what I would like to do probably is drop all 3 squads in, right? And have Farsight and the Cold Star, just like, let's say I'm going to use 2 command points for that because the shortened blade is 2 command points. So let's just say I have, say it's turn 3, so I have 4 because I haven't used any. Use 2 and then copy that with Farsight. So now the Cold Star and the Farsight team are both within 3 inches of the enemy. So they're going to blow up the tank, the Cold Star, and then Farsight can, I guess, either help with that. It's flamers, so again, but he's got his high intensity plasma rifle, so okay, maybe they'll help out. But mop up the infantry, have the Enforcer crisis suit with the fire knife guys drop in not 9 inches away. And that's, again, you need it, like in the sense of I can't run that strategy again. I don't have the right enhancement on him to like run him on again, where I can't get him within 3, to where maybe the 9 inches just to get that +1 strength. Because again, the missile pods, everything like that are going to benefit from the +1. Going up to 8 is really nice. Going up to 9, again, really nice. You're not really going to be able to get close enough for that AP, but even if you wanted to drop back, the full 18 inches kind of thing, these guys aren't going to be that bothered by not being able to get in there. That's all I'm really saying. And then also it helps you, well, let's say I cleaned up those 2 tanks or the tank and the infantry, and now this flank's kind of clear. I can warp the Enforcer battlesuits away and then just go on to, dropping somewhere else or going ahead of it. Like, let's say the Crisis Cold Star is going faster and Farsight's falling behind. I can have the Enforcer jump, warp back into reserve, jump back ahead forward or something like that. And then the Enforcer, since these guys are the Fire Knives are pretty soft. They don't have anything like a invul save, and they're a 3-up save. And so the Enforcer, one of the reasons I purposely choose the Enforcer, one, he's cheaper than the Cold Star. He does move slower. He only moves 8. But his ability. So Enforcer Commander, while this model is leading a unit, each time a range attack targets that unit, worsen the AP of that by 1. To where it just helps keep the Crisis suits at that 3-up. It is nice to stay at a 3-up. Obviously, it's just 1 AP, but if you have them in cover, and then they also, so they're basically minusing 2 AP, that's pretty nice. That's pretty nice. And again, kind of warping them so he kind of fits the whole, hey, we're a little bit more fragile. We're going to be in the back line. Not really the back line, but second line, and we're going to be able to pull out if we need to. Because, again, being that far back, it's probably going to be Farsight or the Cold Star that gets charged. And you can keep these Enforcer team with the Fire Knife battle suits out of engagement range. And so for retaliation, that is 100% kind of the Crisis optimal build. Like, I would love to have more Crisis suits in the sense of, you can always multiply this in the sense of, like, okay, you want to have more, you need more fusion blasters, have some more Cold Stars leading them. I just like Cold Stars leading them specifically, other than Farsight, because of speed. Because giving those guys auto assault when you're not running Monkar, and then me moving 12 inches without doing the assault roll is really, really nice, and it helps those short range guys get into the ranges that they need to be, since you only have 12 inches on your fusion blaster. But that's pretty much it for retaliation. Again, I've kind of talked a little bit about Monkar, a little bit, and Kalyon, but I will switch this back to Monkar really fast, just since I've now kind of finished retaliation here. But so again, going back to those enhancements that are in Monkar, because I didn't go over them as deeply as I wanted to, but there are some things that are nice. For instance, let's just open up all these really fast. Where you have like coordinated, like you can do some nice things to keep the momentum going with Monkar. So first of all, like throwing on example of Monkar on something like the Enforcer or something like that, you can have them have their detachment rule the 4th turn as well. That's fairly nice, especially if you're going to be throwing some dice, just getting some more lethal hits. That's not a bad one to consider, especially only being 10 points. It's one of the things that I like about Monkar's enhancements. They're not very powerful in my mind compared to like some of the other ones, but they are cheaper. We've already kind of talked about the strike swiftly, but you can give the scout move ability of 6 inches basically to 2 people around you. You can't give it to yourself, but you can give it to 2 people around you. So if you are, for whatever reason, not having your Crisis suits in Deep Strike, so you can try to take advantage of that turn 1 damage or something like that. Yeah, that's nice. That's nice. Strategic Conqueror, obviously Tau Empire model only. At the start of the first battle round, before the first battle begins, select 1 objective marker on the battlefield. While a 10 friendly Tau Empire unit is within range of that objective marker, and the bear is on the battlefield, add 1 to that characteristics model, the model's objective control. So I was stumbling over that a bit. That is good. Again, to help you score in the early game, stuff like that. It's not, you have to be on the field. So again, it's not really going to work well with Farsight's team in my mind, because they're going to be sitting in reserve for part of the time. But coordinated exploitation is actually one of those ones that I feel like fits really well, throwing it on like the Cold Star. Because then if you have this on the Cold Star, the guided units have sustained hits 1 on top of the lethal hits. So let's say I put this on the Cold Star, and I'm spotting now for Farsight, who is going to, be doing the attacking right now, where like as in I'm spotting for him. So for every 6 I get, it's not only a lethal hit, but then I get a sustained hit, so I get a dice back. Basically, you don't get sustained hits too, so you don't get 2 extra dice, but it uses the 1 dice that was rolled for the 6 for a sustained or a lethal hit, if I'm understanding it correctly, because the dice multiplication kind of confuses me, because I don't know if it procs it twice, as in you get that lethal hit and that gets set off, but then you get 2 dice, as in like, well, that 1 became a 6, and so then you get the other one. But in my mind, it would make sense that, well, the 6 would become the lethal hit, and then the extra dice that you get would just be 1, because you're already using the 1 dice you already had for a lethal hit. But correct me if I'm wrong. So that is a really good combo just to keep the momentum going. And then again, with the Misopod guys, I would probably run that exemplar of Monkar. Monkar, like, it is, again, just helping them have the assault and lethal hits 1 turn longer. I do feel like this doesn't have the same... You all have assault, and so you all have more in-game, like in-hand speed, like without having to use command stratagems, but you're less tricky. I feel like it's like if you're going to jump in on someone, you can't necessarily expect some magical, oh yeah, I'm going to land it within 3 inches, oh yeah, I'm going to like fly over them with grenades, as in you have speed, but you sacrifice a lot for speed. So I'm not trying to say that it's bad. The speed is key. The speed is going to be very good, especially if you are running a lot of fusions. Having all those guys with assault, having all those guys get in there, stuff like that, that would be nice. So I'm not trying to say Monkar is bad choice for Farsight. But in a lot of ways, I feel like Retaliation, I can almost bring the Monkar, if that makes sense, the killing blow in Retaliation with Crisis Suits a little bit better. While Monkar, you might want to get some of your heavy lifting, at least from other things, while in Retaliation, again, the Crisis Suits are almost your base unit, if that makes sense. They take place of your infantry almost, to where you have a lot more boosts. Like I feel like the Crisis Suits are just a lot stronger in general. Because even the fusion going up from strength 9 to 10, goes from the do marks, for instance, or anything that's toughness 9, goes from 4s to 3s, and sometimes 5s to 4s. And especially with Farsight, like he gives the +1 anyway. But it does feel bad when you're, a fusion in Kalyon or Monkar, and yeah, you're hitting like you're wounding a Land Raider that's toughness 14 on 5s, and you're just like, this is my fusion, dude. This is my fusion. Like, I came all this way, and I'm like tickling you. To where Retaliation helps a lot with that. So I'm not trying to say that the speed is not good. It's very good. It's just very hard to quantify without being in a game. It's very hard to explain to you. Well, getting those extra 6-inch movements, and especially being able to guarantee them sometimes with the command stratagem, is very powerful. It's just hard to quantify without being on a board showing you, like, yeah, do you see how I just like flanked around like this? Do you see how I did this? Do you see how like this guy? So don't get me exactly wrong when I say Monkar is weaker than Retaliation. That is just my opinion, in the sense of, well, with those stacks and like what I actually really want to do with Farsight anyway, those stack up really good in my mind. So I'd say Monkar is probably my second choice, maybe third, honestly, as in it hurts to say that with Farsight, that's kind of his deal. But I almost, just because if you are going to go deep strike, if you are looking for some extra punch, you're not really going to be able to give it to your Christ like Farsight himself. Besides the lethal hits, which I don't want to belittle the lethal hits. That is pretty nice, but sacrificing turn 1 for being a deep strike, you're already giving up a third of your playtime, basically, with Farsight, with boosts. And so, in a lot of ways, I would almost put Kauyon on top of it, because it's easier to be patient in the sense of, well, you're already sitting in reserve. You're already sitting in reserve. You're already sitting in reserve. So, like, you could wait until turn 3 if needed to come out. And then with the enhancements, they work a little bit differently. Like, for instance, one of my favorite ones to put on a Cold Star is just the Precision of the Patient Hunter. It's a lot like the other one where it only affects the bearer. It doesn't affect his squad, which does suck. But let's say I put that on where I'm giving, +1 to his hit roll, and then on the third battle round onwards, 1 to the wound roll also. So he's walking around like a little Farsight, basically after turn 3, he does get the +1, which I say little Farsight because his ranged weapons normally hit on 3s. So he now is hitting on 2s, just like Farsight. And so then he's wounding +1 also like Farsight. Yes, he doesn't give it to everyone. Yes, but it is nice. And then if you're going to, so it just kind of helps guarantee the Sunforge's damage a little bit as a squad, because he, as a Cold Star, doesn't have any sort of special rule of like, yeah, when you have Fusion equipped, reroll the wound, and stuff like that, like the Sunforge do. And so having him just hit better, and then also, he can like help guarantee his wound a little bit better rather than having to reroll. It's just a +1. He's kind of trying to mimic them, so that runs really well. And with the Enforcer, if I was to run anything, it would either be Unity through Devastation or Exemplar of Kauyon, because the first one, you get your sustained hits 1 and 2 turn 2 instead of turn 1, which, so if I'm not spotted for, I get sustained hits 1. If I'm spotted for, I get sustained hits 2. So dropping him in somewhere and kind of setting him up and then spotting for him and everything like that, really nice. But in a lot of ways, especially if I'm going to have him dropping back a little bit, and he can't run away in this one. He's not a stealth suit. Kauyon only has the stealth suits to be pulled, like stealth, ghost kill, anything with stealth keyword, basically. The Farsight marksman team. But if they're sitting farther back, and then they're sitting here being like, oh, hey, I'm going to spot for Farsight, or I'm going to spot for the Cold Star, and give them that ballistic skill, and then also give them lethal hits. That is very nice. Just having that Enforcer, having almost like a close second line support. That is very, very nice. And you have, for the command strategies, what I would use is there's a few things, like point blank ambush. Obviously, if you need the AP, you're within 9 inches, cool, stack that. But tempting trap is nice if they're within an objective marker. That one, that you add one to the wound roll if they're within my trapped objective. But coordinated engage, this one is really nice because if I'm going to be using the Enforcer with the, hey, I give lethal hits, I can play this on him for 1 CP, where he also gets to improve his ballistic skill. So doesn't give him lethal hits, but can make it to where he ignores. He gets that. He ignores cover also, but if I have marker light, but the ballistic skill of 1 is really nice, to where that's a really nice combo. Spot, still get spotted for kind of thing. You don't, I feel like, have as much to focus on. You have your epic challenge, kind of thing where you can like try to take out guys. You have, I think it is counteroffensive. Oh, I guess you don't have it on this one. I was looking for a specific thing that was, like the heroic. Oh, there it is. Heroic invention, like charging, at someone that just charged and stuff like that. To where it doesn't have as much focus, but at least you have that to where you can keep the shooting going, and then the Cold Stars still have assault, so the fusions will still have assault, and
it doesn't hurt you so bad to wait till turn 2 to jump in, or better yet, jump in turn 3. Let's go. I've done that several times where I wait specifically to drop in on turn 3 with all of my crisis suits. So again, going over Farsight one more time, he is really about working together. It's kind of the Tau thing, but he's not going to be able to just go out there by himself. Some of his abilities literally are, when you're leading a unit, it won't help you. While this model is leading you, I can't even use myself the 9 inches to add to 1 wound. I have to be leading someone. And then crisis suits, they're still just crisis suits, to where they are special. They're amazing. I love them. They're one of the reasons I got in the game. All hail broadsides, though. I love broadsides better, even though I love crisis suits. But broadsides are just so iconic. The old broadsides, their appeal to me is just amazing. But so work him in a team. That's part of the reason why I came up with just this short, almost crisis team. It's not the old 8 and everything like that, but having almost like a crisis team to go in with him more than just his one team. I wanted to focus on, he has some things that he can do, what's his combinations, but I honestly think it's hard to fully judge Farsight without putting him in a group and seeing what he could do for the group, even though his special abilities really don't affect him. But that's pretty much it. Thanks, guys, for listening this long time. These character breakdowns, I feel like there's a lot of information that I could be gathering and everything like that, to where they are hard for me to cut down. So thank you for anyone that has made it to the end, and thank you again for tuning in, and let me know for the next video.
I thought of a Farsight combo that I did not think about in Retaliation. So if you did want to go ultimate harass Farsight, you're not using all of his boosts, but when they're there, they're there. Because let's say you're leading some fire knives, right? And again, Farsight has 24-inch range. So if you want him, he's kind of at that awkward stage of he either shoots before or after. Because if you look at the plasma rifles, it's 18. Since they lowered it, they used to be 24. It would have worked perfectly. Or the missile pods. So let's say you have the missile pod ones, right? Or sure, the plasma rifles. The missile pod ones are a bit easier to do. But let's say you have the missile pod ones. And yeah, you need a little bit. It is nicer having a little bit more than 1 AP. That's why I like the plasma rifles. So let's just say kind of both. But you use his free command point thing to do the shortened blade. So you come in 3 inches away. You blast them with everything, with all the boosts. Farsight's 9-inch boost, so his +1 on the wound roll, the AP. And then these guys have, for their special rule, it is each time, this is the one I was thinking of. So this was why the jumping in and then harassing is awesome. So you jump in 3 inches away. You hit him with the stack of the Retaliation, Farsight, and this. And so Farsight giving the +1 to wound. The Retaliation at that point giving +1 strength, +1 AP. So again, those ranged weapons becoming, if you have the plasma rifle, that's strength 9. It's going to melt things. If it's like vehicles, like you could actually kind of jump on vehicles, like Dumarks or something like that. Anything that's toughness 9, you're hitting on 4s. Or if it's infantry, you're like a lot of times wounding them on 2s. Or the missile pod going up to 8, and then AP2, and then the wound rule. But you can hit, each time I defaultly get a reroll a hit of 1, because each time I make a range attack. But if that target unit is at starting strength, you can reroll a hit roll, the entire hit roll instead. So basically jumping in there with all of my boosts and just blasting you, and then with all of my boosts, and you're already at starting strength, so I can almost basically guarantee almost everything hits. Probably not still, but with my dice, but hopefully. Then using a command point after I shoot, using the Torch Star Gambit to move. So then I run away from you 10 inches, and you're basically shocked that I jumped in, did a ton of damage, and then
ran away, and then I'm kiting you after that. I can get you to kite me anywhere, kind of thing, or follow me. I can have you follow me somewhere into a different trap, or just run away from you so well that, hey, you're taking damage, or just when I am running away from you, if I need to go super fast, assault away and have my like broadsides line up and shoot at you or something. It is a really good hit and run tactic I just thought of. So I wanted to add that.